A good midday Saturday to you. Roger Hill, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster for Wuthering Heights Consulting. This weather video is driven by 802cars.com, representing 802 Toyota, Twin Cities Subaru, 802 Honda, all located off of Exit 7 on Interstate 89. We're looking at the terminating line here as it worked through this morning from east to west. And one of the things I want to show you here briefly is the amount of dust that's coming off of Africa in the very distant here. And this is moving into the central Atlantic and putting a little bit of a squash. We call this a Saharan air layer, SAL, and it's putting a little bit of a squash on the formation of any tropical cyclones coming from the Cape Verde region. The areas to watch will be in the southern Caribbean, generally from Cuba, and Florida really points south. This is the particular area that has usually becomes more active as we get later in the season, and so these are the areas down here to be watching. However, there's going to be something southeast of the Bahamas, and of course we have a weak tropical depression. Barely even notice it. This is not associated with this little upper low here, but something over northern Florida as we speak. And zoning in locally, we have some showers that are really departing and dissipating out now from this disturbance that's beginning to power up. There's been some thunderstorm activity in reports of funnel clouds across portions of central and eastern Long Island. Some heavier rains in some parts of eastern Massachusetts from this system that's powered up and tapped into some instability and enough to even produce some interesting funnel clouds and whatnot. Very unstable conditions here across portions of southern New England. All of this is beginning to transit out of the region. Let's take a look at the 6-hour panels of the computer modeling. This morning, as you can see, the European is taking that disturbance across southern New England and pushing it slowly to the south. This is valid about 8 o'clock this evening. And so no precipitation indicated between the hours of 2 and 8 o'clock across Vermont. Now we get into the overnight, high pressure should build in. And this will be a controlling influence on our weather for several days to come. As a matter of fact, we'll jump ahead and we'll see that strongest area of higher pressure over the Canadian Maritimes at this point. At about 96 hours out, that shifts a little to the south, but it ridges very nicely westward. And we can see a frontal boundary beginning to collapse and push toward the region. This is Wednesday afternoon, about 8 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday. And as we get into Wednesday night and during the day on Thursday, this is going to be our next threat for utilities. And it doesn't look like very much, very similar, as these frontal systems have a tendency to wash out as they work south and east towards southern New England. However, there could be some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms associated with a frontal passage. Looking a little bit beyond that, a little more unsettled here, but taking a look at 144 hours out, this would be valid at about 8 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. We get into Thursday night, we have a shortwave trough that's relatively powerful. Incidentally, 5,400 meter thickness, 540 line here. These dashed blue lines indicate aloft anyway, it's cold enough to snow. This should not be a factor for us here. There could be a couple wet snowflakes in Mount Washington and maybe the top of Mount Mansfield. That's going to be about it. This is valid Saturday night. GFS ensemble, we're looking at the morning precipitation here. Otherwise, we go neutral with not a whole lot going on until after the 5th of October. This would be Thursday's action, Wednesday night, Thursday, and from there a little more unsettled. Note, it's all plumes of rain, no snow to worry about here, according to the GFS ensemble. 7-day total QPF, 7-day accumulated precipitation from the Weather Prediction Center shows barely a quarter of an inch straddling through the state. This is a half inch to the north and a half inch to the south. This is less than 1/4 of an inch. So a very dry forecast continues. So this temperature mediogram of the Jeffs again shows our temperatures to incrementally come back up after a fairly chilly day today. On this Saturday, we'll start to see that temperature rise. This is centered on Burlington, so a little bit faster rise than most of Vermont. However, we're looking at temperatures getting back into the 70 to 75 degree realm, maybe as early as Tuesday, but very likely Wednesday. By the time we get into Thursday, we're looking at a little more of a separation of some of the computer model plumes in the future, a little bit less confident on the forecast here, but we do peak out, it looks like, around the 5th or the 6th, and then a little bit of a cold frontal system will bring in slightly cooler air, and we cool on down again for a little bit of a roller coaster oscillation as we head into next weekend. Weighted temperatures, despite the fact it's a very chilly day on this Saturday, we'll see those temperatures running anywhere from around 6 to as much as 12 degrees above normal. What about 3 days later? A little bit of a cooler scenario, running about 6 to 9 degrees below normal, above normal, I should say. Note the areas that consistently stay cool are going to be back in the Pacific Northwest and from California into the northern Rockies, the northern plains. And we have Tropical Storm Maria, sustained winds at around 60 miles per hour. Lee's out of the picture as well. And we have one disturbance we'll have to keep a close eye on. 0% chance currently, but the one over Florida, about a 20% chance of a cyclone formation. It's already a tropical depression. And then there is another disturbance or an area of low pressure just to the west. And something may develop. It could be this system here, or it could be a separate one that develops east of Florida, somewhere in the vicinity of the Bahamas, according to the European model. This is a track that would be probably the middle to late part of next week. Roger Hill, thanks for watching. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights.